This is the CreaseCast.
Welcome back to another episode of the CreaseCast. I am your host again, Cody Sievertson. With me as always is Lachlan Irvine. Lachlan, Canucks played their first doubleheader of the season with the Oilers. But before we dive into those games, first thing first, how great did it feel to watch actual hockey on Wednesday?
So good, Cody. It was such a godsend. It really, I can't put it into words just how great it is to have hockey back on TV again. And to have that experience of, especially just in this pandemic where everything is so jumbled, you don't know what's going to happen going forward. Just to have that kind of just that, for that brief 2.5 hours, there's just a bit of a sense of normalcy. Even if there's nobody in the stands of the game, it's automated crowd noise, all these other things. John Shorthouse being 5 seconds behind the play because of, I don't know why they don't know how, they can't just push the video back a little bit for the viewers.
I don't know.
I'm sure they must be able to. It's just one game bugs that they're going to work out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they didn't have that during the playoffs, right? Obviously, all the playoff people were in the bubble doing
they had people on
live.
site, right?
Yeah.
So it made it a lot easier to delay by only 2 seconds for the swear words and the badness.
Right.
But now it's like they don't want media guys in house, so it's like they have to watch like basically a stream like we watch streams, and then record their commentary that way. It's baffling. It makes no sense to me.
It's tough because it is tough because obviously everybody wants their home broadcaster and wants their home broadcaster to watch on their home broadcaster versus someone other regional broadcast. Because the Oilers did have a broadcaster in the building. They had their own guy there. So that version is fine. That version is completely synced up properly. Whereas John, because they're watching from Rogers Arena in Vancouver, they're just like a couple seconds behind the way that, like we are right now when we record. You and I are in completely different places. There's a little bit less of a lag for us, but we're also not running a multi-million-dollar broadcast. We're only running a multi-billion-dollar broadcast.
Yes,
so we're just ahead.
Right. I was going to say, and, we're not trying to live cast like live sports while millions and millions of people are watching and reacting to it like at the same time as you are, or actually before you. So it's like it doesn't quite work, but like you said, they'll eventually figure it out. Yeah,
I don't see why it won't. I think it would have been. It's to be expected that on the first broadcasts of this game for everybody who's doing the video feed from a different place, I think it's to be expected that they were going to have some bugs and some errors going through the first game or two. It's going to get better. It'll be fine. Once we get a couple games in, they'll figure everything out, I think, and it'll be good too. I don't think we'll have that issue again.
Yeah, speaking of figuring things out, we got a lot to talk about with the Canucks' first 2 games.
Yes.
First one, it's a bit of a tale of opposites. The first one was pretty good, fun, and entertaining, and the second one we'll get into. So with that being said, why don't we dive into a review of the first game of the 2021 season. The Vancouver Canucks beat the Oilers by a nice clean score of 5-3, with every single goal by the Canucks coming at even strength 5v5. There was a lot to enjoy and to take away from that game. There were some asterisks as well, but on the most part, it was pretty positive and left you feeling pretty good. So, Lachlan, what did you think? A lot of players first time playing since September. In some cases, you had Hamonic, who hadn't played since last February or something like that. So with that in mind, just your takeaways on how the team looked in that first game in particular.
I thought on paper it was about as great a game as you could have gotten from them. Maybe that's a little bit, overly positive maybe. Because, again, there were some pretty obvious mistakes and errors going through, particularly Defensively, just a couple breakdowns here and there, but from like rookies, like Olli Juolevi had a couple difficult shifts early on, but he's learning. He's figuring out what he's doing. He's gonna he'll get there eventually, and I don't think anybody's gonna freak out about it or anything. And they drew it up as well as you could have possibly for that first game with a bunch of new players, a brand new goaltender in net in Braden Holtby, who's never played even a preseason game for you at that point. And of course the fact that JT Miller's out, you're missing a first line left winger who's your leading goal scorer last year, point getter I should say last year. Jake Virtanen didn't necessarily fit that role great, but it also
get into Jake Virtanen later.
Yes, we will. But it also clearly didn't diminish the full effect of what Elias Pettersson and Brock Boeser bring to the table, because they still combined for a few points. Like Brock Boeser had a couple goals. I think Petey only had one assist, but he still looked good and dangerous when he was out there. Quinn Hughes had a monster of a game. I don't think it could have gone much better. There were bound to be mistakes in that first game. There always are when you're coming off such a layoff. But I think as far as what you can do, especially against the Edmonton Oilers, and the fact that you held Connor McDavid pointless, regardless of what happens, maybe say, I don't know, in the next game, that's a huge achievement. That's a huge accomplishment coming into a game number one, to be able to score 5 goals on the Oilers without even surrendering a single assist to arguably one of the best players in the National Hockey League. I don't think it's hard to find the positives in that effort.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, there's a lot of people coming in with there's no preseasons, there's no exhibitions. They had like a couple scrimmages against each other where, like as we discussed in our last episodes, people aren't playing the real games that they play in an otherwise NHL game. And you could kind of see there was like a bit of like working through the motions. Like you had Hamonic and Hughes playing for the first time pretty much ever. And you could tell like their passes weren't that great, and everyone was kind of playing really simple. But, everyone had good speed. No one seemed that winded or exhausted. Like there was no kind of, I didn't see any really tired legs. Like given how many minutes some of those players played too. Like I was actually pretty surprised to see just the wheels, on some of these guys, like in the later parts of the third period. But yeah, there's a lot of positives. There's some negatives too in that first game, but I kind of want to stay positive on the first game only because we'll try and do a little half and half here with the second game, because it's literally the complete opposite.
Yeah,
so, you said, your players.
You kind of have to combine the two efforts almost, because and that's kind of the way I think a lot of this is going to go for us and for everybody this season. Is it's not going to be when you do these discussions and breakdowns, unless you're doing it on a daily basis. You kind of have to take it almost as kind of like a baseball series. Like you look at you look at the overarching story and everything that goes well, everything that goes doesn't over those two games, because even if they're completely different, it's almost that combined effort put together, and it's going to be that way for a lot of the year.
For sure. So one of those players that we can kind of evaluate over his 2-game stint was Nils Höglander. He makes his NA pro hockey debut and literally comes away like star of the first game, getting his first NHL point. I can't even where do you start with him? Kid that media all throughout the offseason and summer are hold your horses, guys. He's not going to be an impact player right away. Pump your brakes. Yeah. He's not going to be an NHLer. He might get you some games, but he needs AHL seasoning. And then, no, he is all over the ice. He is like a gorgeous skater. He's setting up plays every time he hits the ice. Him and Tanner Pearson have great chemistry with Horvat, and he scores a fucking goal.
Fantastic.
Could you have scripted a better debut, basically, for besides what is it with the Canucks and having these rookies just come in and have wonderful debuts in their first game?
I was gonna
asterisk
say
Juolevi, but
yes, but asterisk. But I mean, one of my favorite quotes of that first game was, I think it was like during the intermission where they were the intermission show, they were talking about Nils Höglander as they're going to the break. Jeff Merrick is like,
yeah.
"Oh my God, Vancouver, you've got another one!" Like,
Really,
I love
Vancouver,
that.
another one.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. It was just great.
Yeah.
I love that. It was Nils Höglander comes into not only a situation where he has never played in the NHL, or North American ice. He comes in and has to play on the second line with the captain and a Stanley Cup champion in Tanner Pearson, right? Like two guys who have decent resumes, and we're like, all right, you're like, what is he, 20, 19, 20? We're gonna
20.
Yeah, we're gonna put you right. We're gonna put you on the right side, and we think you're gonna do just fine there. And I talked about how I thought, there's bound to be a learning curve with a guy coming in from playing at the SHL. There's no preparation that there's no amount of preparation that, unless you're an elite talent, can really prepare you for what the NHL brings, because everything is just, it's a little bit faster. The amount of time you have to process the play is just that much faster. There's obviously less ice to work with. So all of those factor into this game that's different, and it takes time for you to really figure that out when you're a rookie coming in, whether that's from the Swedish Hockey League, the AHL, junior. It's always like that.
Tough adjustment. Yeah,
it's a tough adjustment, and I don't think anybody would have faulted him if it took him some time.
No,
but then he comes out and he just looks like a goddamn natural, like right off the first shift. Like he didn't look out of place. There wasn't any moments where you were like, oh, he completely misses a cue or something like that, or he's completely out of the play, or gets like stripped of the puck in a play where he might not have been in it at a different level or in a different league. He was fitting out there perfectly. I mean, he had power play 2 times. He was working, and then he got rewarded with a goal that, like, it wasn't like the most beautiful goal in the world or anything. It's literally just following up on a rebound.
It was the result of hard work,
pass,
basically. Yeah. Like it was great. Like just his entire demeanor. Like it isn't easy making that adjustment, like from a junior league or a different tier to the NHL in general, let alone like as someone who's literally only played in Sweden. But then you add in as well, they put him on a line that has traditionally been the Canucks' top matchup line of Bo Horvat, Pearson, and usually Eriksson. So they're trusting him basically to go up against like another fellow NHL top 6, basically, and just trusting him to succeed. And I think expectations had been driven so low by like media and just like reports of like, don't go crazy over Höglander. Like he's going to have trouble. So I think the entire fan base collectively was just like, it's the first game. Everyone's going to be exhausted. Don't expect anything. Like Höglander will get a couple shifts and maybe he'll like, look okay and he'll hang in there. And then it's like his first shift, he creates a scoring chance for Tanner Pearson. His second shift, he creates a scoring chance for like, Beagle or Horvat or something like that. And the one time where he didn't look like he knew something, he had Horvat show him. I remember the scene particularly. He uses a stick. Horvat says, go, like, this is your spot here. And he immediately beelines it against the walls in their own defensive end. He battles for the puck along the boards, steals it, and then breaks it out for the Canucks.
Yeah.
Just like from one point. And that was the only time where I ever thought like, oh, does he know like positionally, like who's his man, who's his cover, like where should he be? And the captain's like, oh, do this. And then there's nothing for the rest of the game that ever indicates like he's going to have troubles. Like he just gets it. Second game, I thought he was like the same thing. Like he was just tenacious on the puck. No problems, no issues. Didn't look like, positionally like he faltered at all. He had the giveaway at like the end of the third period or whatever that resulted in the goal because he was trying like a nifty bank pass to the neutral zone that like failed. And it
didn't work.
Whatever. Like one bad play in your first 40 minutes of play, and it came in like a a losing effort where like the team like literally had lost at that point. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it's a tough era, I'm sure, and I'm sure if you asked him, he would say he felt kind of bad about it. Like he probably took it probably the hardest out of anybody. But even like, because I mean, even his teammates, you see him on the bench, like you see Pettersson like on the bench, like chin up. I love that. I thought that was adorable. I love that. Absolutely, that's great leadership. That's straight up great leadership. And yeah, there was not at one point where he looked out of place. That was the one error he made. It's not, and it's not like it's not like the end of the world kind of play. And a lot of with those great young talents, like I mean, I see it with Quinn Hughes all the time, where they so rarely make a mistake that when they do, it usually just winds up in the back of the net because that's how rare it is. Like that's how rare those mistakes are from them. And if that's how it goes sometimes, that's a great trade-off for what you're getting out of him for 59 minutes out of a 60-minute game. That's a great it was a great debut for him, both those two games. There was also the point, I think, where it looked like he had his first assist because he just bared down on Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and basically I think it was Ryan Nugent-Hopkins or Yamamoto, one of them. He just they panic and they just bat the puck basically right to Tanner Pearson, who breaks out with Horvat, gets Horvat the breakaway for that first goal.
He basically he challenges them at the blue line, and I could have sworn like he did. It was like Höglander that got the backhand pass through like the Oilers defender to Pearson, and I was like, oh, he got an assist and a goal, but no, just the one. You look at once you get to the replay, you see that just Nugent Hopkins just kind of panics a little bit and throws it, which. Hey, that maybe that doesn't count on the points, but that counts is terms of IQ and his ability to make something happen while not necessarily getting getting anything official out of it. And that's the kind of stuff that like the kind of hockey IQ that you can't always teach. Like that's kind of it's kind of tough. You can tell a player where to go and where they should be, but when you get down to the nitty gritty of having them say, okay, I'm gonna make something happen here, or I'm gonna think 3 steps ahead of what I want and create something out of that. You can't teach that. That's the kind of stuff that players are just kind of born with, and Nils Höglander has that skill, and that level of hockey IQ is what's gonna make him a great player in this league going forward. For sure, and it's just like those little things, like the off the puck action that like the coach always talked about with like Goldobin, or like as he currently talks about with Virtanen. Like, what are you doing away from the puck that's like helping your team like create offense, preventing chances, all that? Like he's got it in spades, and he like in both ends of the ice, he's basically just like saying like he knows what to do. Like he's only 5'9". And yet he's like
he's shorter. He's the same height as me. Holy.
Oh, so we're a couple of short kings on this podcast.
How tall are you? How tall are you?
I'd rather not say.
Wait, are you shorter than me?
No, I don't know. I haven't checked in a long time.
You haven't checked in a while. Okay, so
I haven't checked in a while.
Okay, so 4'11". Got it. 4'11".
Yeah. So as a 3 foot tall man,
as a 3 foot.
I've always been a big fan of the short kings. That's why I will always stand the Stetchers and the Palmus of this podcast.
And I'm the same way with the short goalies because we're far and few between. Although apparently I'm allowed to lie and say I'm 6 foot because the skates count for like 3 more inches. Apparently I'm allowed to lie and say I'm 6 feet. Because Alex Stalock is 6 feet. He's the shortest goalie in the league. And I'm like, no, he isn't. I stand taller. I think I stand taller than he does in the net. I'm definitely so. I'm 6 feet, is what you're saying. With Höglander reminds me a lot. It reminds me a lot of kind of the conversations I had with people when Horvat was just kind of starting out, or kind of just turning it like second, third season where he's really kind of just developing. There were a lot of people who were I know quite a few people from other markets who were like, oh, Bo Horvat is overrated. He's not that good. And I'm like, well, no, he is. He's got the IQ. What the thing is, he has the IQ. What you're not seeing is the little parts of the game that he does so well, and the ability to kind of to think 3 steps ahead of that defender in front of him and create something out of nothing. That's the kind of stuff that he brought to the table, and that's the stuff that's made Horvat into a great player. And Höglander's kind of the same way. Maybe not so much. Maybe he's not going to be that like kind of player defensively that Horvat is. He's much more offensive. I would say a little bit more offensively minded. But that's the kind of stuff you're going to see from him as he gets more confident and he gets more ice time and more chances to prove what he can do. He's going to turn into one of those players that can take just a very nothing zone entry and kind of turn something into and make something happen out of it. Whether it goes in the net or he just draws a penalty, that sort of stuff is what I think you're going to see. And you're going to see it as he gets more confident, as he ages and grows into that position. For
sure. Well, on the topic of rookies, we had another rookie making their debut for the Canucks this past couple days.
Officially.
An official one, yeah. So asterisk. There's a lot of asterisks. Like I'm not a big fan of the condensed season here because we'll get into this a lot later. But
yes,
there's a lot of asterisks that have to go around with some of these like stats and like debuts and crap. Like the play-in round doesn't count for stats.
It counts for playoffs. It counted for the playoff stats.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
not
it did.
The play-in round.
Yeah, it did. It counted as the post the postseason. I believe the postseason. Anything in the qualifiers in the play-in round counted as postseason statistics. Because otherwise there would be no place to put it. So technically, they set some playoff. Okay. Somebody might have set a playoff record or something because they played a couple extra games. But
right.
Yeah, but still, those definitely did count as postseason points. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, I rescind my remark then.
Oh, okay.
The other person making his debut in the regular season for the NHL in the final year of his entry-level contract and 5 years after he was drafted, it's Finnish defenseman Olli Juolevi. A bit of a tale of hot and cold with Mr. Juolevi. A lot of the good that showed in his game was his passing, his calmness, his physicality along the boards, which he honestly wasn't really that good at in the AHL last season. Like he was kind of playing pretty big, which I hadn't actually seen from him. So I was actually pretty impressed by that. But his skating looked actually like remarkably better in like straightaway situations. And I kind of liked just how smooth he looked for most of the play. But his downsides were issues that have been remarked upon pretty much since I started watching him in the AHL, and that his mobility and ability to turn is near non-existent. I think it was 5 or 6 times in 25 minutes of ice time, he got burned badly on the outside while defending the rush. And we can get into it a bit later, but one such moments.
I think you took some heat for that. I believe I took a little bit of heat for the thought, which was kind of weird because it's not like you put an opinion. You just were like, "Hey, kind of got walked here," and everyone's like, "How dare you?" It's like I'm just saying what I saw on the screen. I'm not saying he sucks.
So let me go on a bit of a tangent, Miranda.
Oh, okay. So, here we go. I'll just get my water.
Yeah, go for a break.
I'll be back in like 10 minutes.
Because the AHL isn't due to start for at least another 3 weeks at this point, maybe 2.5. I figured, okay, the Canucks are playing, so I'm going to clip video of like all these players, highs and lows, basically exactly how I do with the AHL, because I got nothing better to do. I'm just going to clip video of the games, do this.
Let's not name names here, okay? Okay, perfect.
I'm not dropping any names.
No starting beefs today. No, not yet.
Yeah. I'm not going to list all the Twitter @ I want to take on right now, but I clipped video of Juolevi, and it was a remarkable play from him because keep in mind, I have watched 2 seasons of him play in the AHL where lesser players with worse skating have beat him on the outside just like that, like thousands and thousands of times where he just cannot turn or keep pace. So to my surprise, the end of the first period against the Oilers, it's Juolevi defending a rush on the outside against Leon fucking Draisaitl, pushing him away. He then battles against the end boards to strip the puck off of them, like steals a puck that has been stolen away and then ties it up to close out the period to prevent any chances. And this is game one where everything's just going right. And so I tweeted the clip and I was just like I can't believe this. Like it's amazing. Like so many times I had seen this in the AHL and just been like, oh, this is not working. And here he is just like absolutely proving me wrong against the reigning like MVP of the league and doing it perfectly. So later in the game, the exact same play happens where he's beat on the outside. And so I find it funny because I've clearly jinxed him by basically going on getting 3,000 views on a video clip and being like, I'm so proud of him. And congrats to him for being able to finally defend on the outside on an NHL level against like one of the best players in the world. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, so much for the defending the outside thing, like hashtag jinx, because I've clearly just jinxed like any good karma he's had. Yeah. And a certain sports media personality took this as me basically making a proclamation that Olli Juolevi is garbage and I'm being too hard on him after 2 games, as if, again, I've made any declarative statement about his play.
You didn't. And, it's so. Oh man, people really are fascinating. They don't read sometimes. I don't know why.
No, and I can give him the benefit of the doubt in the sense like, okay, like you don't follow me. There's a million tweets going off in a single game day, right? It's the first game of the season. It's popping off.
And I also think to be fair, also like you didn't put it wasn't in a thread, right?
No,
it wasn't in a thread.
I changed that for game 2 because
if you saw the first one, I think if they clicked on that one to get mad at it, but they had seen and gone up and immediately seen the first one of Juolevi, it's like, oh, okay, he said something. They would be a little bit more. They might have been a little bit more, gotten it a little bit more. Like
you would think, but the issue with that then is I was then told that I shouldn't be playing I Told You So with my video clips. And again, I have not said Olli Juolevi is a shitty player and we should judge him for this. I am still joking about how I jinxed him in this one clip. And so I was literally told by this person, like, I shouldn't be playing I Told You So. And my brain kind of broke because I was like, am I reading the same tweets that I'm writing right now? This doesn't make any fucking sense. So anyway, I have like endless people in my mentions being like, this is a garbage take, you idiot. Look how salty you are. And I'm in my head, I'm like, this isn't a take.
There's literally no take
here. There's no take here at all. It is a video clip with me like remarking on how I've jinxed the player. Yeah. That's not a take.
No.
I almost feel like people just saw a clip of someone playing bad and without even thinking, we're just like, this person is a hater. Yeah. Without even reading it or watching the video, even like, because if you watch the tape, it's exactly what like thousands of media personnel across the country have warned about Juolevi's play, is that if you come in with speed around the outside, you can beat him because his fucking hips are broken, his lower back injuries, his knee injuries, like he just can't skate the way you need him to.
Yeah.
And so like my brain broke and I figured I'd have to go on a rant in today's episode just because I couldn't believe just a casual clipping of the game resulted in like 70 people in my ats going like, you're a fucking idiot for this take.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, yeah, it happens.
Now I'm salty.
Now you're salty. People are a little bit overexcited. They just want to, they just see as soon as they, sometimes as soon as they see any sort of like thing that's like not necessarily complimentary, they get a little bit defensive about it. That happens.
It's just wild because it's like
there was no take, and that's the weird part, really. At the end of the day,
it is not a take. If like a take would be like if I put like, oh, Juolevi's gonna win the Selke this season, and I had that clip. That's a take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if I said he's going to be bounced out of the league and he's going to be in Sweden before this year's done. Like that's a take.
Yeah,
It's
those are
it's like a
takes.
thought of what's going to happen.
Which
It
you're not
isn't-
saying
it
you
isn't-
you're not saying you
I'm not
believe.
describing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Just so we're
describing
clear.
something I've literally just watched.
Yeah. And like he had
Anyway.
and I mean even like on like the couple I will say in Juolevi's defense, like in the couple of the plays where he had where he had some trouble, I feel like if say he has
He still was fine.
He was still fine. Like he had a good like he was
Like
fine.
when
He
got
wasn't a
beat on
negative.
the outside.
And
Yeah,
there
when he got beat on the outside by Draisaitl, he didn't keep pace, but he kept pace enough to still get his stick in the action and deflect the puck away from a scoring chance. So it's like,
yeah.
I'm not saying like, oh, he failed at this defensive attempt. I'm like, no, his weakness caused a scoring chance, but he still was able to defend.
Right.
And it's like, people are like, that's Leon Draisaitl. It's like, I know. I watch hockey. I'm watching an Edmonton.
I'm well aware of who
team.
that
I know
is.
it.
Yes.
I'm quite well aware that it is Leon Draisaitl, the reigning MVP, that he is
Right.
still managing to disrupt his scoring chance, but it's about the weakness that began the clip. But anyway,
Yeah. And
I could go on for days.
Yes. And again with Juolevi, even on the play where I think he got stripped of the puck a couple times and that led to a directly to I think it was Kailer Yamamoto's goal.
Yeah, so Taylor Yamamoto stripped him up or was tied up with him, I believe.
And then Draisaitl took, and then I think Draisaitl took the puck, passed it to Yamamoto, back of the net. Even on that play, like I don't think that he maybe made it he made a small error. He took a little too long, made a small error.
Yeah.
But I would say even that goal is more on Tyler Myers than himself because first of all, Tyler Myers is not covering anybody. He's like near Braden Holtby, even though he's got two guys down there. And then when the puck, when the play starts folding out in front of him, he decides to just fall down. Like he decides to try to block, which I was confused by for two reasons. Number one, you're too far away. You're not blocking anything. But also, dude, you're like
huge.
7 feet. You could reach him. You could reach him from there. Why are you like sliding down to do a pad stack almost? I was so confused
reach him,
by
and
that.
also his flop made him a smaller target and easier to avoid. So it's like
the only
you're not doing
explanation.
yourself any favors. It makes no sense.
The only explanation that I can think of is maybe they want either the team or the goalies want their defensemen if they're in front to just drop to give them the vision, to give them the full vision sort of thing, which is still a little weird, but maybe that could explain kind of why he maybe took that direction instead of trying to almost to do I guess a Superman dive to try and poke the puck out from Yamamoto's stick. I still think it was weird because I've seen him kind of do it before where he does this drop where he kind of just does the drop into the ice and and sometimes he'll do it in the corner, sometimes he'll do it he does it in these places and I'm just kind of always like, dude, you're huge. I get that you're kind of trying to do the wall to kind of disrupt, but you would have so much more success if you just reached out and made the poke. You could easily break that play up. With Juolevi, I don't feel like that was on him. I feel like, he erred, but he got back. He tried to get back and make something happen, and his defense kind of maybe didn't help him out as much as he could. I do wonder if maybe Juolevi would have more success playing with somebody like an Alex Edler or playing with an Alex Edler type or something instead. This is one of those cases where you would kind of wish Chris Tanev was around because he would be a good fit for Juolevi right now. I do wonder about playing him with Myers just because Myers is a little bit more of a risk taker, and Juolevi is not so much of a risk taker himself, but he's learning. He's learning. He's a rookie. He's taking his time. I think I do wonder if it'd be better. You do wish that there was somebody a little bit more stable to put him with on that third pairing. There just kind of isn't right now.
Right. So if we look at their pairs too. It's kind of an even distribution of guys who actually have mobility right now, because you have your top pair, which is Hughes and Hamonic. Hughes has the wheels. Hamonic does not. You have the second pair. You have Schmidt and you have Edler. Schmidt has the wheels. Edler is aging. He doesn't have the same wheels that he used to.
Right.
And then the bottom pair, you have Myers and Juolevi, who neither are really great straightaway speed kind of guys, but they're competent enough, right? So the problem with moving Hughes up and down the lineup is then suddenly you have Myers with like someone like Edler, for example, and you have the most immobile third pair imaginable.
Right.
So
it's
worth it basically to flip them around and have one pair that can't skate so long as your top two pairs can, still skate. But the issue also there too is Green obviously doesn't trust Juolevi enough to play him like straight up like 20 minutes a night like he does the rest of the defensemen.
Yeah.
So you're going to constantly have guys mixed and matched. Like at one point in game 2, Juolevi was playing with Hughes. And like for like a shift, which is really bizarre.
Which
I'll
is
take
fun.
it.
Like,
Like that's what he kind of needs is like someone who can like back check faster than he can, or like defend someone, on the outside.
I do want to ask you a question because you've gone on the tangent about about everything with Juolevi and how he can't turn and everything. Let's give you the opportunity to really throw this into a positive here. Okay. What can he or the team be doing to kind of fix that? What does he kind of need to be taking to, like, what sort of work does he need to be putting in to kind of fix that? Is there a way to do that? I know he has hip issues, so that does throw it. And like, as anyone with an injury can tell you, when you've had that kind of injury sort of thing, you are always going to be a little hesitant to kind of put that extra bit of pressure on it because you're scared you're going to hurt it again.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it with I think it was like Boeser last year where he had a couple of moments where you could tell his wrist was bugging him and he was kind of like, you could see that he wasn't putting the full 100% that he could on that wrist because there's that, and the back thing as well. Because it's in your, because it is in your, right, and it's very fairly, it's in your head because it's a fear. It's a real fear. With Juolevi, is there something that the Canucks could be doing to kind of work that out of his system and to kind of get him more comfortable making that shift to that turn to that left side like that?
They basically need to. They're going to drill it in his head eventually. They're going to be like, look, in the NHL, you can't stop skating. You have to be moving at all times. There was even times when he's in like the offensive zone too, where like he just like plants his feet and he stands still. Like you watch Schmidt, you watch Hughes, you watch even Hamonic and like Edler. They're constantly changing their angles. They're changing which edge they're on because they know like they need to be ready for like something to change and to change quick. In the AHL, you don't really see that a lot. It's a lot of people moving straight up and down, getting planted, and then, working their cycle or whatever. In the NHL, you need to be ready for a Draisaitl or a Yamamoto or McDavid to just like suddenly have the puck and you're changing your angle to cut the attack and, close the gap or like mind your gap. Right.
Yeah.
And so there's times where like he gets backed up into the neutral zone and he plants his feet and then thinks about his next move. And that's exactly what happened on that split second, that Yamamoto goal, basically, or not Yamamoto, the Nugent Hopkins goal, where it's like he plants his feet for 2 seconds, takes that one look, and that extra second he takes to take the look is all it took for him to get the puck stripped of him. And it's not like he's getting stripped by like a player that's like, Dustin Byfuglien's size huge. Like Yamamoto's smaller than friggin' Nils Höglander.
Oh my god.
And he's 5'7" or some crap. So it's like,
oh my god,
as a 6'3", 200
on
pound
skates
defenseman on skates, like you can't be losing a physical battle to some dude who's like tiny. Even if you're caught off guard, like you got to be able to battle for that stuff. So I'm sure like Nolan Baumgartner, now that he's realized like, I can't play Alex Edler 27 minutes a night in the first 5 games of the season. I can't be doing that. So I need to be able to trust Juolevi more to play. How does that happen? Well, I need him moving his feet. I need him thinking faster. I need him to be reacting 20 minutes in advance, basically. Like he can't be flat-footed. It's not the AHL. Otherwise, you might as well get a Rathbone up for a couple games to see if his decision-making and his speed is better than like a calm, collected defenseman like Juolevi who can't skate or can't move.
Right. And it might even be just a case of now that he's in the NHL and playing with guys and sitting on the bench watching watching the guys like Hughes and Schmidt play, that might be what it takes. It might just be watching other defensemen do that sort of thing that might kind of put it in, that might help give him that extra idea, like that extra flip the light bulb, if you will.
Everything I've heard too about Juolevi is that he's an incredibly smart guy. He's an incredibly smart player. Like he's a very heady type player or cerebral type player.
That definitely translates. Like that, you can definitely see it. You can see what you can see that when he loses that second because he's thinking like, and he's trying to get that full range of what do I need to do here. It just kind of sometimes it's something that takes some time.
Yeah, I'll take the error because he's took too long thinking rather than like someone like say a Jake Virtanen making the error because he's not thinking and he's just like autopilot, like I'm just gonna stand still.
You'll take Juolevi trying to make something happen, trying to think about how he's gonna take it and losing the puck over, say, him just standing behind the blue line and just trying to throw a pass all the way down and it gets intercepted right down the middle sort of thing. Like that's the kind of stuff that you can take. Like that's the kind of stuff that's hard to train out of somebody. So whereas the other thing, if that's the kind of error, like they learn that once they make that error, you learn it pretty quickly. He's going to be fine. Just give him a few games.
If we keep seeing it though, then you start penciling in Jack Rathbone basically. Like
hey, I still hold out hope that you have both of them in there at some point. You throw them both. I want nuts chaos.
You're true team chaos.
I'm true team chaos because I know that chaos will turn into success. I can see it.
Chaos will reign supreme.
Yes.
Hey, I'm still holding out for Louis Eriksson as a right side defenseman.
Honestly, why not?
Yeah, like go for it. He can still. Well, I mean, I pitched that in the summer back when he still looked like he had good wheels and stuff for an ancient man in the playoff bubble, but apparently he looked really slow and out of shape at this training camp. So I'm like, maybe my right D Eriksson isn't a good idea. So
yeah, just erase that real quick.
Yeah. So that's enough probably on Juolevi. I'll save my next rants for another day, I guess.
We have 100 more episodes to go, so you'll have your time.
I got plenty of rants. That'll be the Patreon. Is just Cody rants about random shit from Twitter.
Yes. Sure. Let's do it.
The next issue that we but the thing we need to talk about is the Canucks power play. Wasn't really that great. There isn't really much we can talk about it, but just from an objective standpoint, a bit too much passing, not enough shooting on net. Elias Pettersson looked more frustrated than I've ever seen him in that second game when he broke his stick or his second stick of the game off of a flimsy wrist shot and slap passes to nowhere, slap passes that weren't resulting in anything. No one really wanting to take the one-timer. It was a very frustrating thing to watch that power play go 0-7 or whatever. 0-5, 0-7.
0-7, you got it.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. And then, as if power play 1 wasn't getting any good favors, we saw a second unit power play of Tyler Mott. So
just Tyler Mott, guys. They literally just sent him out there, and I was thinking, well, that's a little bit interesting. I've never seen a team send out just one player on the power play against 4 guys. It's bold. I'll take it. Very, very bold. I like it. I'm down for it.
I think Doritos sponsors the Canucks because that was pretty bold of them. You might actually be.
That was loco.
You might be too young.
What?
No, Doritos Bold.
Doritos Bold? I do not know.
No? Okay.
I know the Doritos Locos Taco at Taco Bell. I know that exists.
Okay,
I know that's a thing.
That's
they have the Cool Ranch or whatever.
Yeah.
They have Cool Ranch,
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I do know what you're talking about now.
They gave them away at what was funny is they gave those away at World Series, like for the World Series or whatever. There was this promotion if somebody steals a base during the World Series, everyone in America gets free Doritos Locos Tacos, and that was big for everyone in San Francisco because the Giants won the World Series. We're going off on a completely different direction here. Okay.
So
power play.
Well, yeah. So power play wasn't great. Just your thoughts on kind of I want to focus more so on the passing and how it doesn't really seem like there's a set trigger man anymore. Even though the first game, Brock Boeser showed off his wicked shot, like it was back at 5v5. So what do you think they need to be doing moving forward on that power play unit to set up a trigger man? Because it doesn't seem like they know what they're doing yet.
It's so tough because they have all of the offensive tools to really put it together and to have the best power play, arguably the best power play in the NHL if they really pieced it together. I go back to like thinking about like last season. I remember being at the game, the 90s night game this year against the Rangers earlier this year. I was sitting like lower bowl, had a really good vantage point of like the power play of like they got a lot of power plays in that game, and I just remember them overpassing like crazy. Like the confidence was just kind of missing. Like there was no. Yeah. It really did seem like they were playing full hot potato with the puck, or more. Or in some cases, and I think this is more the key this year, is they're looking too much for the perfect shot. They're really looking to find something that, like, just that absolutely perfect, guaranteed, gonna go in 100% of the time shot. And the problem is that almost never comes. That they're not through any fault of their own. That's just, it's hard to it's so hard to find that perfect shot. Because again, because the defense in front of you is going to usually find a way to get in front of those. Passing is good. Like there's definitely merit to passing the puck around a bunch because you want to get the goaltenders moving. Especially if they're a bit of a bigger guy like Mikko Koskinen. Sometimes if they're slower, you want that pass across. And I mean, I'll definitely talk about the Oilers power play, which is kind of does that to perfection and how they pass. Then how they're very able to pass into a goal. The Canucks are a little bit different. They should be looking a little bit more at, can they just get shots low and in? That's what you want from this group. Especially because, Brock Boeser's biggest asset is his power on that shot and how much weight he can put behind it. So in those cases, you don't really need to be looking for the perfect shot. You just need to just get him, set him up, and just throw it down, have him shoot it low and into that goaltender, force a rebound out in front to a guy like Bo Horvat or somebody waiting out in front. That's what they need to be looking for, because they're getting read a lot. Because they'll get read, they get picked off a lot. Because the player, it's pretty easy to see how they're telegraphing their passes sometimes. I really think they don't even need to have necessarily one guy setting up. As the setup, as like the trigger man, even like very easily, you could be looking at things where you just go, okay, if Boeser gets the shot, rebound, pop it out, pass over to Pettersson, shot, rebound, throw it back to the defenseman or somebody, Boeser, pass, shot. Like you literally could just go nuts on it a little bit and just start throwing, just machine gun shots at the net if you wanted. You will tire those defenders out quickly that way as well, a lot more quickly than passing the puck around. And trying to get them to block it, because that does tire them out. But I think you will find how much faster you could. Yeah, I think they underestimate how easily they could unravel teams by just unleashing just a flurry of shots at the net on those power plays. Like if you come out of those power plays, those man advantages looking like where it's like maybe you don't score, but you look at the totals and it's like, oh, they got 5 shots on net in that 2-minute span. That adds up. That adds up over time, not just on that power play, but over time. You're gonna gas that team out pretty quick.
For sure.
That's the kind of way I think they should be approaching that power play. I think they'll find a lot more success.
Yeah, it's a bit too static for me. Like when every guy's position is so clearly laid out on the ice, there's no real dynamic movement. Maybe you'll have like 2 guys switching off, but otherwise it's such an easy job for like a penalty kill if all you have to do is basically stay in your same quadrant and watch your guy. You don't have to move. You don't have to really cycle at all. Like that's what, like they're almost game planning their power play against like how they defend on their penalty kill, which is 4 dudes over 30 who can't move and just stay completely still. And they think like, oh, it's going to work this time because we're dealing with, a bunch of 30-year-olds who just like try to block shots with their ankles and they can't chase off of rebounds. Yeah. But against a team like the Oilers who like use guys who are like, under 30, they have like Josh Archibald, they have Zach
Darnell
Hatcher.
Nurse.
Yeah, they have guys who are like going to block shots, but also like have the ability and the tenacity to chase after those rebounds. So you can't just like stand still and hope a rebound is just gonna create a chance for itself. But
yeah, they have and it's not like they don't have the mobility to get fast, to do a little bit more dynamic moving around. They have it. It's there. The second power play, not so much.
No,
but
that one's more of just like a straight try to get like a one-timer option for somebody and hope for the best.
See, that's the one. That's the one where you maybe want to be looking at passing around a little bit more. Like if that group is just kind of doing the pass thing, the pass in, look for the perfect shot. That makes sense.
Yeah,
but
if
fine.
You're throwing kill time, whatever.
Yeah, but at power play 1, they could be doing a lot more. Like I know they really like the Horvat behind the net, pass out front into the slot sort of thing, where they all just kind of crash the net. Yeah, I know they like that one a lot, but that one's still a little bit. That's a little risky for that group. I think you're much better off just trying to fire some shots at the net, especially when you have even with Quinn Hughes, where you could just have that guy bulleting shots down low into the pads, and you'll find rebounds, and you could bat a lot of those home, and they'll find a lot more success that way. They're not the prettiest goals in the world necessarily. Mm-hmm. They're not like Steven Stamkos like he did against Chicago the other night, where they put him in his spot, in that spot right on the hash mark, where he just tees it up and it's in every single time. Yeah. But no there's it's incredibly sexy a goal, but those are hard to get. Those shots and those opportunities are hard to get. They'll find a lot more success just with the volume and getting the shots into the front of that area, into the danger zone.
Yeah. Well, speaking of success in scoring, I guess we can move on to one of the biggest issues facing the Canucks in their last 2 games, and that was Connor McDavid.
Wasn't in the first game, which was shocking.
What that was wonderful to watch. Was that actually probably elevated expectations of the fans way
holy cow,
we're gonna do it 56-0, we stopped McDavid from getting a point, and it's a part of your brain actually kind of believed it. I mean,
hell, celebrate your victories. That's a big one. That's a good victory to have. Of course, it ended up leading to Connor McDavid just going off in the second game like he does.
Just deciding, I am so mad that people think I'm washed up and I didn't score against the Canucks. I'm gonna put the entire team on my back.
It's literally the moment. It's literally that Avengers stinger where Thanos puts on the Infinity Gauntlet and is like, "Fine, I'll do it myself." And you're like,
"Yeah,
that was McDavid." He just snapped the Canucks into oblivion.
It's the Michael Jordan meme.
And I took that personally. Yeah, exactly. I think it was John Garrett who, in the second broadcast, said something along the lines of they should have just given him a goal in the first game to kind of ease him off, calm him down a little bit, because he might have not gone off so hard, which sounds ridiculous. When you hear it, sounds like that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But when you actually think about it, you're kind of like, actually, that might have made a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, especially after watching the second game, it's that would have been a smart idea.
That's 4D chess. That is absolute 4D chess. That's honestly genius. There is something to that idea of it really does matter to players, and when they see that difference between 1 point, one goal, no matter how you get it, and 0 is. It might as well be just a cliff, just a giant canyon in between how bad a 0 feels and how good a 1 point feels. So McDavid, of course, just torched them in the second game, and there was really nothing they could do about it. Thatcher Demko did his best.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing too is Demko didn't play bad, and by any stretch, he was lights out in the the first 5 minutes or 3 minutes, the Oilers were just on that first line, just trying to almost trying to pour salt in the wound. We are going to destroy you. We outshot you last game, but you held us off the scoreboard.
It's the foreshadowing. It's the absolute foreshadowing of I know exactly where this is going sort of thing.
So, yeah. And so, the whole game just plays out, and you can tell Green has no idea what to do with line matching at this point, because Vertanen gets taken off of the first line, and like without Miller, you really realize they have no options.
The depth I've never seen the Canucks look so depleted, and yet they only were missing one guy. Like that, and obviously, no matter what team you are, it's hard to replace a first line guy unless you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then you have Nikita Kucherov's
every guy
even with
Nikita Kucherov guy.
Yeah, Nikita Kucherov is out, but you're just like, oh, no problem. We have this 4th overall pick that we picked up from somebody else, like somebody like coming through, right? They find they find their depth, and they've got plenty of it. And they can throw like Tyler Johnson on waivers and put him in their taxi squad because why not?
That's depth building. Like I love the tweet from our former editor at Vancouver's Awesome, Daniel Wagner, with his tweet that was like, it's depth problems for the Canucks when Tyler Mott is on your second unit power play and playing with Pettersson, because it's just like it is so bad when it's like the post game, like it's the second game, and the post game questions to Travis Green are like, what do you do basically? Like Vertanen doesn't work, and you just tried 4 other 6 forwards to try and make something happen, and you got nothing.
What were the other 3? Because it was Mott, it was Vertanen, and then there was, who else was up there? Did they throw in there?
I think they gave a shot to Höglander as well, and I think Pearson may have, like, basically every forward got a twirl except for McEwen. Like even Gaudette got like a,
which is funny because I would say he might have been the better fit there. He might have been the better fit there out of the bunch, like because he's a little bit bigger. He's more of a pucks in deep, go get the puck sort of guy. That might have been their best strategy.
Need a tenacious guy, basically,
which is what JT Miller brought to the table.
Is that two-way like presence who's going to be tenacious on pucks to like basically let Petey and Brock do whatever they need to do. And so Gaudette would be like a great replacement option, but once you take him off of that third line, then your centers down on your bottom 6 are Sutter and Beagle again.
Yeah.
And so you're basically hoping that top 6 can score, because if they don't, if like say against like the Flames, they do Gaudette, Pettersson, Boeser. If they do that and they get held off the score sheet again, or they get caved in like they did against McDavid, then Green's going to be freaking the fuck out, because it's going to be like, I'm going to be resorting to Vertanen again and just hoping for the best.
Yeah, I mean, at this point...
It's pretty dicey. It's not like end of the world because it's this early, but man, this team could use JT Miller back.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, frankly, like, you kind of have to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Like, unless Jim Benning decides to go out and make a trade to fix things, which, frankly, they're not going to do because it's only 2 weeks. What do they have to give up? And also, it's theoretically, it's only 2 weeks. You're only going to be without him for a couple weeks. What else is there to do besides try something that maybe it's going to hurt? Yeah, it's going to hurt your bottom 6 for sure if you take Gaudette out of there, I like McEwen as possibly an option, even though it's his off wing.
So before we move on to different options, what did you actually think of McEwen's game in the first 2?
He was quiet for me.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say,
quieter side.
Every time I watched him shift with Gaudette and Roussel, it mostly seemed like Roussel and Gaudette doing all the work, and then McEwen kind of skating around, holding his stick like this, and just kind of flailing it around, and then ending each run with a hit.
Yeah.
I don't think he did a single thing. He held the puck once and set up Juolevi for a shot that got deflected out. Yeah. That's it. And it's like, he didn't have a strong training camp. We talked about that a lot in like our first episode, basically. Yeah. And so now we're 2 games in. I don't think he's got registered a single shot.
And yet we're thinking about whether he should play with Pettersson and Boeser.
And that's like, that's the times right now, is that this guy who hasn't done fucking anything is like a potential option, because they need someone like him on their line to get going, basically.
It'd be a jolt. It'd be a jolt for him, that's for sure. Like,
I would almost be like a jolt to the lineup, just like, hey guys, this is who we're playing with, because we can't trust anyone else to do the job.
I can't trust any of you scrubs. Yeah.
No. Travis Green looked at the locker room and he's like, "You don't want me to bring back Louis Eriksson, do you?"
Yeah.
Do ya? Because I'll do it.
No, please don't.
Yeah. Don't please, sir. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
But
and Vertanen 5-goal game. All of a sudden, just there it was. That's all you needed. Five goals from Jake. Someone $1 million score and win. I do think maybe you try Gaudette. I think Gaudette is your best option there. He's very clearly works fully for it and wants the puck.
He has a great work rate, and like he actually has like the wheels to keep up with those two. Like of all the other bottom six forwards, he'd be the guy basically.
He's a bulldog when it comes to going like after the puck. He's gonna throw and he'll take the puck by any means necessary to get it. And when you have guys like Pettersson and Boeser at your disposal to throw passes to, outlet passes to, suddenly you could start racking up some points, and Gaudette could really use that. It sucks because he is a guy who would really benefit from playing with a couple more scoring threat guys. Roussel has his moments, but he's still a little bit. He's still very much more of a
great two-way forward, but like you can tell like his knees aren't really there. But like on that one goal he set up Gaudette, like it's because he was on the end boards, he got the puck, and he saw an opening basically, and that's something you can count on every couple of games. But I don't know if you can count that on that like consistently every single game.
The thing is, because he's such an agitator, he's a flight risk. You don't know how long. You frankly don't know how long it is until he might get kicked out of a game, and suddenly you don't have your winger anymore, which he did in the second game. He got thrown out. Yeah, he got a 10-minute misconduct.
He always gets thrown out in the end.
And I think it was Quadrelli who was like, it was Harmon. It was Harmon who was like. It was Harmon Dial. He was saying how you can see the refs just looking for a reason to kick out Roussel as quickly as you can
before he gets started,
before he can start doing something really bad. Which is so true, and that sucks for Gaudette because now the guy that he has his chemistry with is gone off his wing. For 10 minutes or for who knows how long. If he gets just a normal fight, that's 5 minutes gone for him too. Yeah. It's tough because he could really use some more scoring threat wingers. McEwen, you hope, can kind of turn into that a little bit.
Yeah, he's got good hands. It's just like he just doesn't like seem to know what to do right now. He genuinely looks lost on most of his shifts in the last two games.
He's kind of stuck. He doesn't have many options available to him. I think if you and then not only do you, I think if you put Gaudette with Pettersson on that line, Pettersson Boeser on that line, does it help with going in and getting pucks? One of the things they talked about at length was also that Pettersson had to take a bunch more faceoffs, like in his own end and stuff. Where he's still working on it. Like his faceoff game is still a bit of a work in progress. Yeah. And Miller would often step in to take those faceoffs. Throw Gaudette in there, that might help. That could help a good amount because I don't know. Because I don't think Mott was taking any faceoffs, and Vertanen certainly wasn't. So give Gaudette a try in this next game against Calgary. Montreal's next week, and see what happens. See what happens. See if you could find a good replacement. I think.
I loved Drance's piece with The Athletic today. It was basically like, this is the thing you could do. It makes no sense, and there's no way it would ever happen. But you just load up on your top six, and you have a first line that's Pettersson, Horvat, Boeser.
Yeah,
and then your second line is Gaudette, Pearson, Höglander. And I'm like,
hell yeah,
would be so fun to watch if it actually worked.
That could be goddamn lethal. Like it
would be so cool.
That could like, how do you defend against that really? The answer is you wait till line 3 and 4 come out, but
you time it perfectly for when the Beagle or the Sutter lines come out. But that being said, this could be like a completely different tangent I go on here.
Oh boy.
The bottom six matched up really well with the Oilers in that first game.
Yeah,
like surprisingly well. Like usually when like the Beagle Sutter Mott experience gets rolled out, like you're just like kind of hoping they don't get pinned into their own end. But you had like them constantly stealing pucks away, like breaking into the zone. Like they didn't really get anything really significant going. So it was still kind of like frustrating to watch, like just like this lack of offense, but they were getting there.
Yeah.
Which is like impressive considering like they're just two old dudes and like a guy who's, got like a fun little hashtag about him.
Yeah.
Shout out to Broadcast with hashtag Mock
Yeah,
Summer.
we had to. Yeah,
I insulted him pretty hard on Twitter the other day. So.
Yeah, everyone's like,
sorry guys.
Mott took a lot of flack, especially in the second game where he took some bad penalties.
Well, when you take two, it's like, come on.
You're on the first. You're the first line winger, Tyler.
Yeah, you were signed to be the elite penalty killer. You can't be taking penalties and going to the box. We need you out there.
And that was the thing with Hamonic in the second game where he took a couple, and that's why Juolevi had to be out there, and that's why he got a little bit turnstile by Draisaitl, I believe. That was on the power play. It's tough. It's just a tough situation overall. But like the fourth line did look good in that first game. They handled it pretty well. They were able to kind of they held them off. It really is with that group just kind of don't be a minus out there and you're fine. We don't need you to necessarily put the puck in the net. That'd be great. That'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
But a lot of the best teams in the NHL have fourth lines that can put the puck in the net. But for now, they just need to not be a minus out there. In that first game, they did a great job of it. And then I think
Age kept up with it or caught up to them in the second game.
The being gassed from game one definitely might have played a factor into what went wrong with game two for them.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff that just those kinds of games when you take them when you can get them. You take them when you can get them, and they looked fine out there. I will say on the defensive side of the game, I really liked when they threw Hughes with Schmidt in the second game. I was waiting for that because again I feel like they make so much more sense together than putting Hamonic on that pairing with Hughes. I guess technically speaking, Hughes and Hamonic are the second pairing. If you look at the lineup, Edler and Schmidt are pairing one in the team size technically, but Hughes is the first.
Hughes is your best defense.
Whoever Hughes is, no matter who Hughes is playing with, that's your first pairing because he's their best defenseman. I really think it made more sense to play Schmidt on that right side with Hughes because I think not just from and I talked about it at length in the last episode that what Schmidt is able to do against prime opponents and prime like defensive matchups. It just makes more sense that he's there with Hughes because he can really feed Hughes the puck. They need to find somebody. They'd have to find somebody to kind of be a little bit more mobile on that second group to play with Edler. Because I mean, my ideal defensive group for the Canucks is almost you put Hamonic with Juolevi on the third pairing. You put Myers in the press box and put in somebody else a little bit more.
Can you imagine if that happened?
I mean, I honestly don't think we're far off from that. I do think that there's I think Hoglander, not Höglander. Why I keep getting him and Rathbone mixed up because they're both like new guys.
Because you think
because they're I missed that. You muted out. You froze.
Because you think Hog and then you think Bone in Rathbones.
Hogbone, yeah.
You need the Hogbone pairing to.
Yeah, I need the Hogbone pairing. I almost feel like you might end up seeing Rathbone or say somebody who's a little bit. I don't know if there's somebody who's a little bit mobile that we got waiting in the wings. That might end up playing on that second pairing with Edler. I think that's kind of where you're leaning eventually, or unless you can maybe make or unless a trade happens or something. But that's kind of where I feel like it makes more sense. I do think that trying to find a setup where it makes sense where it makes like fiscal sense, I guess, to put Schmidt with Hughes on that first pairing, finding a way to where that makes perfect sense. Should be kind of something that management should keep an eye on when it comes to potential trades and new people who you could call up or bring in from other teams. Like that's kind of something I think they should be looking into. I think it'll get better as they go too if you give them chances.
There's definitely going to be like a ton of like shifting and moving around. Like that's what the taxi squad's for, is like they have like the opportunity to change things up. Especially like as we look at this upcoming Calgary Flames matchup, Like
Yes.
you're gonna have a bottom six facing Josh Levo, who has like wheels. He's got skates. Like
Yes,
it would
Calgary,
be
the
so
Calgary
bad.
Flames' best player, Josh Levo. Very true.
Yeah,
I'm very nervous
like,
about playing Josh
he's
Levo.
a great third line bottom six player, and you
Yes.
just think like he's gonna know that like you can beat Sutter, you can beat Beagle easily, you
Yeah.
can beat McEwen because he doesn't know what to do half the time. Like
He's getting there.
I'm excited for like the matchup just from like a heated rivalry standpoint. Like the Calgary
Heated
Canucks
rivalry.
versus the Vancouver Canucks, that's fantastic. It's gonna be so weird just seeing like Tanev against the Canucks. That's gonna be so bizarre.
Jacob Markstrom against the Canucks is
So-
going to be nuts. I don't know if you watched any of his game last night against
I was gonna say
Winnipeg.
let's
He had
let's
his
segue into the off Canucks news because I think we covered like the two games pretty well. We covered the players and all that. So
I did want to. One other thing I did want to say, and not to end on kind of a saltier note, I think it was Jason Bruff who tweeted out like something along the lines of like, "Why couldn't the Canucks have just kept Toffoli for this price instead of Jake?" And I'm like, I don't
Why you
know.
gotta remind me? Why do you
I don't
gotta ask
know,
me?
man. Like
I know.
you could have. I mean, again, I beat this drum a bunch of times, but even if however I feel about Jake Virtanen, you could have had both. You could, if you had done some just a little bit more cap management, you could have had both, and it would be fine. Like if you had Jake Virtanen on your third line, that's great. That's a perfect place for him. It's too bad you couldn't have all three right now. Like you couldn't have all of them right now.
Like I memed the shit out of it like over the off-season break. Just like it took like a Jack Adams worthy performance from Travis Green last year to get almost 20 goals out of Jake Virtanen. And I say almost because he didn't quite get there before the season ended.
He would have
got there eventually, but it took amazing matchups. It took line juggling, moving him up and down the lineup, giving him power play time. Like it took everything in their power to get the best performance ever out of him. And he still showed up at the camp that season out of shape twice.
Yeah.
And so great. He showed up to training camp in shape for the first time in 7 fucking years. But it's like, this is the guy you put all your eggs in that like, because of like this 1 year where it was mostly because of coaching that he's just going to, carry it over. Like, why?
I mean, I think he'll find success. I hope it's
just
here.
Not on this team.
I mean, I hope it's here at this point. I mean, he's not going anywhere. So and I think again on the on that third line, on most nights he looks fine. And if a great coaching performance is what it takes to get that out of him, I mean, that's fine. Like that works. Hey, if that's what you're getting, and you're gonna get 20 goals out of a third liner, that's great. That's great by most team standards. I'll take that any day of the week.
It is fine.
You just wish you could have Virtanen and Toffoli. You wish you could have Toffoli sitting on that second pairing, or I guess with Höglander here, you have him kind of like flipped somewhere else. But that's still like all of a sudden your team's looking pretty good on that right side. If you have Boeser, Toffoli, Höglander, and Virtanen, hey, all of a sudden Virtanen doesn't look like that much of a struggle anymore. He looks pretty good on that fourth group.
He would actually be probably where he should be, which is on a fourth line that can score, not a fourth line that is meant to just, like you said, not be a minus.
And he'd probably look fantastic at it if he did it. If you gave him that role, he'd look great, I think.
Yeah, you would think, but that's not the world we live in right now. So anyway,
that's not in the cards.
Let's not preview, but I think we both watched that Winnipeg Calgary game. And so we saw a bit of the Jacob Markstrom goaltending performance sans Ian Clark. Just quickly, like what were your thoughts on how he looked in a Canucks uniform?
So I'll say, there's two frames of thought here. But I'll start by saying I didn't get to watch a lot because I was carpooling with a buddy of mine. So during most of that game, and then by the time I got home, I didn't know the Canucks game started at 6. I thought it started at 7 again. So I was like, booked it inside, like made it in time for puck drop. But like, I didn't get to see as much of that game as I would have liked. But the two frames of thought being, number one, he looks unfortunately fantastic in that uniform. Like I'll like it really is just kind of like, you know, it's like you seeing a picture of your ex on social media and being like, God damn it, they look great, like they look so happy and great, and I'm so sad. Like that's kind of what it was. Like you just see him, it's like, God, he looked that red and gold looks fantastic on him. Wow.
Have you seen that, like that meme where it's like a guy crying, but like he's got a mask that's got a smiley face on it?
Yes.
It's like the begrudging happiness.
Yes. That's exactly what it was. In terms of his game, obviously there were a couple moments where he was a little bit like, where he had those few very much Jacob Markstrom, holy shit, oh no moments.
What are you doing?
Or what are you doing? I mean, I sympathize greatly with that because that's exactly the way I play. Is I'm just like
Team Chaos.
I'm Team Chaos, and I'm just gonna say I rock it. I completely rock it. The same way Markstrom does. Like there was the one where he miscued the puck. He like misplayed the puck. It comes right out into the front. Literally every Flames defenseman is scrambling to like block the net.
Block shot.
And then he's still like, he overslides and then still snags the puck out of the air. And I'm like, yes, that's the guy. That's the guy right there. I think he looked fine. Again, I've said it before. I don't buy the whole idea that the second he and Ian Clark, or he's not working with Ian Clark anymore, that his game is just going to disappear completely. I don't buy that for a second, because once you instill those lessons into a guy, they figure it out.
He's not just gonna forget him. Or
it doesn't. It's not like okay, so we have trademark on that, so we need to erase his memory of the last 2 years.
This can't be your style anymore.
Yeah, no, it's not like that. Like I don't know what his coaching is like. I don't know if in Calgary now. Like theoretically, whoever his coach is could theoretically teach him completely want to get rid of that style entirely and teach him something different, which could work better or worse.
Yeah.
But that's always kind of a bad strategy to take, especially with a guy who's in his 30s. I think he looked fine. He looked a bit, he looked a little bit chaotic just because I think he's playing in front of a new team. But I think over time,
chaotic Markstrom is really fun to watch.
Yeah, he's great.
I love chaotic Markstrom.
He's a fantastic goalie to watch. I love watching Markstrom play.
It's why I loved Hashit growing up, is because he would just be flopping and flying all over the place, and it was so fun to watch in like the dead puck era where everything sucked.
That's why everybody liked watching Hasek. That's why
it's gonna be. It'll be devastating when the Canucks are like teeing up on the power play tomorrow night, and he drops for a 2-pad stack, and you're gonna be like, no.
That's right. That's right. I was at the game where he did the pad stack too, in the flying skate uniform. I was at that game, and I literally got a perfect view of him just doing the thing, and I'm like, hey, I know that. I know what he's doing. Like as I see him make that move across the net, I'm like, I know what he's going for.
He's going for it.
And he makes it. Yeah. Let him speak. Let him finish. Like that. Yeah. I think he'll do fine in Calgary, and I think you saw the bits and pieces of his game that really shone in Vancouver. I mean, Calgary was not the better team in that game, and they still came away with a point. That's classic Markstrom right there. On a similar note, Patrik Laine coming up with we talked about how he's struggling in Winnipeg. Holy crap, 2 goals. Dude, he looked great.
He is so fucking awesome.
He's great. He's great.
I have all the time in the world for Patrik Laine, and he had the funniest quote today. Maybe last night after the game, and they're like, I've never fought before, and figures the one time I drop my gloves, I take a 2-minute penalty instead. Pretty embarrassing. Like, that's so funny.
I love this guy. I love that character.
And like looking back at our last conversation where we were talking about trade rumors, I really hope he stays a Jet, because I don't know. I feel like he just fits the vibe of like Winnipeg so much better than he would fit anywhere else. Like it's just like this understated dude who just has like honestly like one of the best shots in the league. Yeah. Like that one shot where he faked out Markstrom and then let it rip by him, and that first goal where he goes top corner under the crossbar and in, like, oh,
And it doesn't matter what goalie's in front of that. No one's stopping that. Like
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter who you put in there. Like Markstrom you could take Markstrom out and put in a Dominic Hasek or a Patrick Waugh or a Martin Brodeur or the best goalie of all time, Roberto Luongo. It doesn't matter. They're going. Yeah. It's still going in the net because that's how great of a shot and how wildly cool Patrick Laine can find ways to put a puck in. Because it kind of like that second one, because it got he tried it, he got stick checked at the perfect moment, but then got the shot and it almost kind of curved around around Markstrom's glove, which is a hard shot to pull off.
Yeah. I'm always in awe at the size of that unit. He's so good. He makes every shot just look so easy.
I'm realizing on a goalie standpoint, I didn't even get a chance to talk about Holtby and Demko overall and how they did in those two games. Because
we can dive back in there. It's probably
just quick. You know what? I'll keep it very quick. Quick here.
Let's hear the lock. Ooh, let's call this the segment. The quick lock thoughts.
Yes, we need like we'll have to get a goalie name for it, even though the whole show's named after goalies. Demko and Holtby, again, they did the thing that they did the reversal of what I thought they should have gone with, where I thought Demko should get game 1 and Holtby goes game 2. Mm-hmm. Maybe in a way, maybe the way the schedule works out, it made more sense. It does make a little more sense to do it the way they did, because I almost, like, for example, they've got Calgary tomorrow, the big game against Markstrom again. I almost don't want Demko starting that game, because I think that's a lot of pressure to be like, all right, remember your former teammate that used to start in front of you, and then we didn't sign him to keep you. All right, have fun. Good luck out there, good luck out there, buddy. No pressure at all, right? Like that game in itself is just perfectly lined up to be the game that you start Holtby in first, that you go with Holtby first. Sure. With Holtby, again, I'm new to seeing him on a regular basis. And I really did try to make a conscious effort to look at what he does and what he does in the net. He stands up a little bit taller than Demko is a much more stands low in a stance. I'm trying to do the stance while I'm sitting down, because that's the way I think about it. Is I literally just think about what I'm doing, and I kind of like try and
emulate it a bit.
I try to emulate it. Like when I'm writing the articles on goaltenders, I actually will try and like think about how I'm standing, like, and try and think about like what difference that makes and everything.
Yeah.
Holtby stands up a little bit taller, so he leaves a little bit more room down low. I noticed with his mobility, it's definitely a little bit on the slower side, particularly noticeable when the Oilers were on their power play and just passing the puck back and forth. There were a couple times where it's like wide open net on the side, and I'm like, you know, you see it, you can see that the reaction time is definitely slower, especially compared to Demko, who's younger and got a lot of is a much more athletic goaltender, especially coming into this training camp. There was a lot of talk that I remember last training camp and last season, he looked a lot more stiff when he'd play. Mm-hmm. But then there were shots and footage in training camp this where Demko came in looking a lot more athletic and a lot more like he was tracking like each little finite detail and everything that was going on. And I was like, I liked that a lot. And I think you're going to see over time that's really going to benefit him. Holtby is a bit of a step behind there. I think he'll get there. I think a little bit of that is rust. It's the fact that he had a tough season last year. The mentality of coming in after a hard year, the way he did, always is a little bit of a something you gotta work around as a goaltender. And as your goalie coach, that's something they kind of got to push out, because that mentality is everything. It really does make a huge difference when you're feeling good versus when you're feeling bad, and how differently a goaltender looks when they're playing in their strongest headspace versus their worst. I think with Holtby, like, I know you and I talked about it briefly, how you're like, the old guy wouldn't have been able to handle McDavid in the second game.
He would have got murdered in that opening 3 minutes. Are you kidding?
Maybe a little bit, but I think he would have settled down after like 10 minutes. And I think...
Yeah, but the game would have been... I mean, it doesn't matter because...
It wouldn't have been lost.
It was in McDavid's hands the entire time, basically. Right. It was like McDavid had put the team on his back. So like all that would have changed is the Canucks would have been playing from a deficit way earlier. It wouldn't have mattered in the grand scheme, because like they just were a step behind the entire time.
Yeah. I think with Holtby, I think, again, this is why I want to see a couple more games from Demko in the early going. Is because I think it's going to take Holtby time to work with Ian Clark and and add those couple extra details that he's been missing. Like, again, we talked about it, how you were like, oh, he's kind of like older guy. But he's only 31. He's only a year older than Jacob Markstrom, for example, and 2 years younger than Carey Price, who are both very athletic, very well-built goaltenders in that design. And Holtby is a little bit less on the athletic aspect. He's a little bit a touch back there. He's a much more of a get in front of the shot kind of goaltender and just kind of go through the paces kind of guy. But I think over time you're going to see him, as he gets more training time and more coaching, you're going to see his game round out a little bit more from the athletic side of the puck. Like, I think the parts are like the times where he was that step behind on the power play and kind of sliding across just a couple seconds late, even though the Oilers didn't catch him on it. I think that stuff will disappear as you get farther into the year. I think you will see his reaction speeds go up quicker. Because, again, he's not that old as far as goalies are concerned. Goalies do mature a little bit later more of the time. Like, goaltenders can last a little bit longer in their prime than players can. And I think with Holtby, it's a matter of just giving him that time and giving him that opportunity to get the right coaching and to get some exercise time in that helps him work on the flexibility and the sliding across and everything. Because, again, he's a durable goaltender. It's not like injuries have hampered him over his career or anything. He'll get there. He will get to the point where I think he's a lot more athletic, and suddenly I think you're going to have this very lethal combo of Demko and Holtby taking the reins and doing essentially what Jacob Markstrom did last year, which is stealing a bunch of games. But instead of one guy doing it, you're going to have a whole tandem of guys who are just all of a sudden just taking the Canucks into games that they might not necessarily deserve to win. They're going to steal a couple points here and there.
Just a podcast update. I'm just checking right now, and the Senators beat the Leafs 5-3.
Did they really? Holy crap. Remember how we were like, Ottawa's dead last. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my
anyone
God.
listening to this right now, tomorrow or Saturday morning, Control F is how you find and search stuff on a web page, and you're going to need it because Sportsnet and TSN pages are going to be nothing but Leafs content for the first 50 pages.
What was the thing I saw?
It'll be a bit tough.
What was the thing I saw today that got deleted? It was something like Mitch Marner wants. I don't know if this is fake. This might have been a photo. I'm sure this could have been a Photoshop.
It was really funny.
There definitely was a TSN tweet that was deleted today, and I believe it was this thing that said Mitch Marner wants a karaoke machine for the Leafs locker room, which is
that was somehow news.
Like, shut up!
Dude, no one cares.
Okay, I totally understand that TSN and Sportsnet, their most viewership comes from Toronto and Leafs fans. I get that they're such a ratings pull.
Yeah.
But once you get into that point, it's like,
it's transcending to comedy at that point, basically.
Yeah,
like
it's
you're
like
making fun of your own fan base by putting out such lowbrow content.
Like, that's
who's reading that and being like, oh, thank God I know this now.
No one cares. Like, it's a cool little tidbit. Like, it's something that you might want to throw into a tweet or something, like as a joke. Like today when Ryan Leslie from Sportsnet Calgary asked Chris Tanev about his brother's team photos, and Chris Tanev said something along the lines of like, it looked like he saw a ghost or something, which is a fantastic. See, that's a great tweet, but I don't need to see an article necessarily about Chris Tanev. My brother looked like he saw a ghost in his photo. You don't need that. You don't need an article about that. That's just a funny little tidbit that's interesting to learn. And TSN doing that is just like, I have no doubt that people would be far more interested in hearing literally about, including Leafs fans, about literally anything else. Like what was it? Mike Martinego tweeted about the Quinn Hughes making the pass on his ass, like sort of thing, which is fantastic. We didn't even talk about that. How he just like back pass behind the net as he's sitting down to Boeser. beautiful pass, one of the greatest passes you'll ever see. Like that, like literally, I think Bobby Orr has done that, and that's the only other comparable I can think of. Yeah. And yet, and Mike tweeted out like how if that was a Leaf, it would be a top 10 Sportsnet moment for years.
For years,
and
it's so
sure enough. No mention of it because they don't care. Because apparently Mitch Marner's need for a karaoke machine is much better, and Leafs people getting so upset about us complaining about that. Yeah. It's like we deserve a complaint here, and if you guys aren't getting enough, that's on you. That's on you.
Yeah. Well, speaking
that's on you and your team that hasn't won a playoff series since before the last full lockout. Maybe you second tier team should keep quiet. I'm just gonna
careful. You might anger some of the Twitter plebs out there, and they'll call it sweaty.
I like Steve Dangle. I'll say that. I like Steve Dangle. He's fun.
Oh, okay. I'm out of here. See ya. Bye.
Come on.
Listen. I always yell on a podcast. I don't need to hear someone else yelling on a podcast, so I'm good. I
get that.
This has probably been way too much time spent on the Maple Leafs. So let's
already 3 minutes.
This is now a Leafs podcast.
Gross.
Let's quickly run through just two other things. The Oilers were their Navy alternates in the game.
Yes.
What did you think
of Jersey Corner? Hell yes. Let's do Jersey Corner.
Let's just kind of close out with some Jersey talk and kind of screw the actual news because we are Jersey fans. We both, I think, have pretty decent collections of jerseys.
Hell yes.
I do not know why you would run that as your main third jerseys. I don't know. It's not for me. Maybe you have a different opinion, but I dislike that jersey so much.
I don't like them at all. I don't know why a couple years ago before Adidas came in, they went so hard on the orange jerseys. Like I like them. They're kind of nice. Like the original orange jersey that they wore that got really popular during their playoff run a couple years ago was nice. I liked it. It was a throwback jersey. It looked really good with the royal blue. Mm-hmm. I loved it. And then when they came in with the Adidas, they decided to rebrand it with navy blue, and I just don't. Yeah. The Oilers keep trying navy, and I'm never a fan.
It doesn't work.
I'm never a fan of it.
Their 80s dynasty jerseys, they're
perfect.
It's kind of like the Flyers. Like you have like a winning combination with the Flying P or the Flying Buck or whatever, and orange and black. You don't need to really change it. You don't need to alter the colors to make it something like fresh because it looks bad. Like people. It's like the Tarkin thing, it's the uncanny valley. You can tell when something doesn't look right. Yeah. And so you look at those Oiler jerseys and the navy and you're like, it should be bluer.
Yeah. I'll give them credit for trying something new. There's no team in the league right now. I don't think that has anything like those jerseys. And that's probably for a reason, but I'll say that I'll give them credit for trying something different than any other team in the league because teams are a little bit hesitant
the Islanders, right?
To try anything new. Oh, the Islanders. Yeah. Our reverse retro is the same jersey we always wear.
It's the same one, but the blue is slightly darker.
It's navy now. Hell yeah. But I don't anyway, but I will ask this question. I will say this. The Oilers wearing those jerseys on back-to-back games makes me wonder if maybe the NHL went a little bit more lenient on their jersey requirements because usually they set a very specific
you have 7 days
number.
Or whatever you can do it.
Yeah. And then to add kind of fuel to that theory, the Kings actually put up a jersey schedule of all the games. Hey, it's a cat.
Just jumping on me.
Yeah. I'm going anyway. But they put up their jersey schedule.
Yeah.
And they have they've listed 3 games where they're wearing their reverse retros. They're really nice reverse retros in the Forum blue and gold, which look great. 3 games in their 90s throwback jersey that they wore last year, which is the white LA Kings 90 Gretzky jersey, which again makes me wonder, wait, could the Canucks not wear the flying skate again? It seems to me like they could have. It seems to me like they could wear the flying skate again if they want to.
Yeah. I wish they kind of relaxed entirely on the jersey restrictions. Who cares? Let them wear whatever they want. Why limit it to only 3 times a year? That seems so dumb, especially now too, when it's they're selling ad spots on helmets to try and like recoup like some kind of monies to the owners. Like you know what's going to sell a jersey? Seeing a team wear it for 60 minutes a night, or 3 hours a night.
And like I totally get the idea of road teams, you know, can only those jerseys. There's a lot of jerseys. You can only carry so many on a road trip. It's not like with basketball jerseys or football jerseys where they're kind of easy where they're a lot more portable. You know, because they're a lot thinner. And don't take up as much space in your luggage or whatever on the plane or something. Hockey jerseys are definitely a lot less travel friendly. Yeah. But I don't see why you couldn't go and just straight up say, okay, just give us a month notice of what you're wearing, and the other team, as long as they're not wearing something identical, let them go with it, right? And I almost think they maybe have kind of done that here, because I don't know why the Oilers would wear that same jersey 2 games in a row if they weren't necessarily getting the leeway to go and just kind of go, okay, pick whatever you want, sort of thing.
Right.
Because I don't know why they would have, because them wearing that in back-to-back game, wearing it in the home opener was strange. Wearing it 2 games in a row was even stranger. So I do think maybe there's a possibility we see the Canucks wearing a lot more interesting color jersey combinations this year, where they get a little bit more funky about it.
That would be nice, but they're a very boring team. But let's move on to another team that switched up their jerseys and equipment. We had the Avs debuting all of the blue in the league at one time in one outfit.
Yeah.
What did you think of this? I loathed it.
Me too. I don't like it. It makes no like the. Awful. I don't see what was wrong with the black helmet. I don't get it. There was nothing wrong there. It looked perfect. Their uniforms are great. I like the Avalanche uniforms quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially their
maroon
Nordiques
brownish
one
is totally fine.
Yeah, that Nordiques jersey is fantastic. Fantastic. Hey, bad. If they're gonna give us a reason, if they're gonna take a jersey and give it the Adidas revamp and everything, I don't care. I want to see that jersey in a new version of that jersey. You know how much those jerseys are probably gonna sell? Probably sold in Quebec. Dude. People probably got so thrilled about that. Like they look fantastic. They're clean. They're nice. They are crisp and so perfectly 90s. I love it. And they've never done anything with the Nordique stuff before, so give it one try. Who cares? Let it go.
I'm going to pitch something to you right now, okay? The Canucks, they just get killed by COVID and they sell and they move the team to like Charlotte or something.
Well, that's
Charlotte wins the cup in the first year of their existence. So they've won the cup.
Okay.
The Charlotte Canucks have won, and the first thing they do the next year is they do a throwback year and they bring back the white skate.
But see, you've already made the key difference here. The Avalanche are in year 25. It's not like they're doing this the year after they won the cup. They're doing this 25 years down the road when the animosity is clearly past, and B, the Nordiques are coming back in a couple years anyway. So who cares? No. They're coming back soon.
They don't make enough money. They don't have enough corporate sponsors outside of like Bell or whatever. There's no way.
I think the potential owner that was going to take the team when they did the expansion bid a few years ago is like $1 billion team. It's like Rogers buying the team. Like they've got full pockets. They're fine.
But you've forgotten that Gary Bettman hates Canada, and the North Division is something he probably is crying in his sleep at night about. I don't want to give a Canadian team a chance.
Gary Bettman's hatred for Canadian teams aside, I do think that eventually one of those teams that's really struggling in like Florida or Arizona, I think it's a matter of time before they move to
Florida
Quebec.
For sure.
Because and I don't want to see Florida move. I actually really like the Panthers. I don't want them to move, but they would do very well in Quebec. They would do a lot better in Quebec than they're doing in Sunrise, which is about 3 hours away from Miami. I don't know why they did that. It makes no sense. But yeah, Conclude this, I don't like the Avalanche. I don't like the Avalanche blue helmets. It looked fine with black. I don't know why they needed to make that change. It looks weird. Maybe it's just 'cause I'm used to it. I don't know.
Yeah, it really does. I'm not a fan. All right, well, guys, I think we're almost about ready to wrap things up, but I've just noticed again on NHL.com that the Philadelphia Flyers have defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins twice in a row now, this time by a score of 5-2, and I believe that brings their total to 14-5 in the head-to-head of goals or something like that. It's disgusting. And so
Pittsburgh.
That kind of brings up a question that I think we can both maybe chime in on. What do you think there should be an asterisk on scoring records that might be set this season? It's a truncated 56-game season, and right now we're seeing guys scoring hat tricks basically every single game, and they're going to be facing these opponents up to 10 times a season. So what do you think?
You want me to go first? Okay.
Sure.
I will say no, because frankly, the NHL's done this. This has happened before. There is 25 years of the original 6 era where you only played 5 teams, and it was only, I believe their seasons were only 50 games. So for a long period, because that was the whole deal of why 50 goals in 50 games was such a crazy feat, because Maurice Richard only had would only have that exact amount of games to do it. So those guys like Gordie Howe, the Rocket, Jean Beliveau, they were just beating up the Rangers and the Blackhawks every single year during the 50s, right? So frankly, I would hazard a guess at saying that no one's going to come close to that kind of clip here. Because the amount of scoring that they were getting done at that era is nuts. Against less opponents and in less games. I think
for sure.
I think there's no asterisk here. I think you're going to see teams play about as well as they normally would. Yeah, they're going to have a lot more opportunities to beat up on one team, but no more than any team, like, say, the early eras of hockey was necessarily getting.
Well, I was going to answer in the opposite, but I actually just heard your answering, and I was like, yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. So
Did you not? I guess you didn't like. You know what?
Even think of it. I was just like, my brain, I guess, was like, okay, let's look at stats since the post-lockout era and salary cap era, and so I forgot that hockey existed before then. So
right, that hockey. Did you know that this person used to be a baby at one point? Crazy,
there was this era of time called the 80s where hockey was played. It was wild.
Yes.
Who knew?
I mean, yeah, Wayne Gretzky's probably records of points against the Canucks is probably pales in comparison to anything.
Well, then
anyone else is gonna get.
Then we saw that McDavid game last night, and it's like,
well, I mean, Elias Pettersson, pretty soon he's just gonna go off on just put up 20 points against everybody. So
yeah, well,
it's only a matter of
hope,
time.
Man.
That's a great way to get the asterisk, is if people are it's not fair that Elias Pettersson just completely destroyed everybody. I'll be like that. In that case, I'll be like, well, I mean, you can think that all you want, but he did it, so who cares? Let it just be ornery about it as possible.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, with that, guys, this is really fun to recap the first 2 games of the season. We're going to have plenty more by the time we get back together this Tuesday. We're going to be recapping the Canuck Bowl between ex-Canucks and current Canucks. That's going to be absolutely wild, must-watch hockey. As always, please drop us a review if you liked what you heard. Give us a 5-star review and try and help us get our numbers up. Makes it, I don't know, somehow helps the search engines when people are looking for Canuck stuff. We show up, I guess, a bit better when you get more reviews. So
brings up the ratings.
Anything. Also, we have our Patreon that you can subscribe to. We have a $1 tier and $5 tier, which gives you access to bonus episodes, which we're going to start recording soon. As always, you can also find us Apple, Spotify, and now Instagram. We are officially on Instagram. We'll have, a picture. I might have started a TikTok this week. Oops, I might have. Oh, okay. We have the TikTok and the Grindr account too.
No.
But yeah, as all, Lachlan, where can they find you?
You can find me at Lach and the Crease on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as lachandthecrease.com, where I write articles and I post links to some of the other stuff that I'm working on.
You can find me. I'm at Cody Severson on Twitter. I don't give out my Instagram because I don't want creeps looking at my pictures.
Stop calling the listeners creeps. No one wants that.
And if you creepy freaks ever want to read my stuff, you can check out thecommetsharvest.com. Of course, I say all this in jest. We love you. We appreciate your listenership during these times. We're looking forward to more episodes throughout the season, and we really appreciate you guys stopping by. So thanks, guys.
Thanks so much. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.